What would you do if the person you've spent 10 years protecting wasn't helpless at all? For 10 long years, everyone in the small town of Ashfield pitied Emily Carter, the beautiful young woman who lost her eyesight in a tragic accident at just 18. Her parents sacrificed everything to care for her. Her younger brother abandoned his dreams to become her guide. Her fiancé stayed by her side, promising to marry her despite her condition. To everyone, Emily was a symbol of courage and resilience. But there was one thing nobody knew. Every morning, every afternoon, and every night, Emily could see. Perfectly. For 10 years, she watched every tear shed for her. She watched people give up their dreams for her. She listened to every secret they whispered, believing she could never know. And she carried a terrifying secret that forced her to keep pretending. But secrets never stay buried forever. Because one rainy evening, Emily accidentally opened a letter hidden in her late grandmother's old box. A letter that changed everything. A letter that made her hands tremble. A letter that revealed the horrifying truth about the accident that supposedly made her blind. And before sunrise, the entire town would discover that Emily Carter had lied to everyone for 10 years. But when they learned why, even the people who hated her would burst into tears. Because Emily wasn't protecting herself. She was protecting someone else. Someone who had betrayed her in the cruelest way imaginable. And when the truth finally came out, a family would be destroyed. A murderer would be exposed. And a secret buried for a decade would shock everyone. So before we begin, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because this story will leave you speechless. Nah. Let's go back 10 years, to the night Emily opened her eyes and decided to pretend she was blind. 10 years earlier, the Carter family mansion was glowing with celebration. It was Emily Carter's 18th birthday. Music filled the house. Friends and relatives laughed in the garden. Her grandmother, Eleanor Carter, sat in a corner, watching her granddaughter with a warm smile. "You have a beautiful future ahead of you, Emily," she said softly. Emily kissed her grandmother's cheek. "And you'll be there to see all of it." But before Eleanor could reply, someone called Emily's name. It was her fiancé, Daniel. He held a small velvet box in his hand. The guests gasped. "Open it," he said. Inside was a silver necklace with a tiny heart pendant. "It's not an engagement ring yet," Daniel said nervously, making everyone laugh. "But one day, I want you to wear my name too." Emily's eyes filled with tears. She hugged him tightly. Not far away, her younger brother, Noah, clapped excitedly. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Then Eleanor's smile disappeared. She was staring at someone across the room. A man standing near the staircase. His face was calm. Too calm. Eleanor looked frightened. Very frightened. A few minutes later, she pulled Emily aside. "Listen to me carefully," she whispered. "If anything ever happens tonight, remember one thing." Emily frowned. "What are you talking about, Grandma?" But Eleanor didn't answer. Instead, she slipped a small key into Emily's hand. "Keep this safe." "What does it open?" "You'll know one day." Before Emily could ask another question, a loud crash came from the kitchen. Everyone rushed inside. In the confusion, Emily didn't notice the key slip from her hand and disappear beneath a table. Hours later, the party finally ended. Emily, her parents, Noah, and Daniel all left together. But halfway home, Emily realized she had forgotten her grandmother's birthday gift. "I'll go back and get it," she said. "I'll come with you," Daniel offered. "No, it's only a few minutes." Those were the last normal words she would speak that night. When she returned to the mansion, the front door was slightly open. Strange. Her grandmother never left doors unlocked. "Grandma," Emily called. No answer. She stepped inside. The house was silent. Too silent. Then she heard it. A noise upstairs. A muffled cry. Emily's heart began racing. She slowly climbed the stairs. The bedroom door was open. And then, she saw it. Her grandmother lying on the floor. A hand around her neck. Someone was trying to kill her. "Grandma," Emily screamed. The figure turned. For one brief second, Emily saw the person's face. And the person saw hers. The room went completely still. Emily couldn't breathe. She knew this person. Trusted this person. Loved this person. "No," she whispered. The figure lunged toward her. Emily tried to run. Something struck her head. She fell down the stairs. Everything became blurry. The last thing she saw was her grandmother reaching toward her. Then, darkness. When Emily woke up, she was in a hospital. Machines beeped around her. Her head throbbed with pain. Then she heard voices. "She's awake. Call the doctor." Emily slowly opened her eyes. The room was filled with light. She could see. Perfectly. But then she remembered. The face. The person in the bedroom. The murderer. Suddenly, she heard a doctor speaking outside the door. The grandmother didn't survive. Emily's heart shattered. "Did the girls see anything?" another voice asked. "We don't know. She suffered severe trauma." Then another voice spoke. A voice that made her blood run cold. "Please, don't let her remember anything." The voice trembled. It was the same voice, belonging to the person she had seen in that bedroom. The murderer was here. In the hospital. Pretending to be worried. Emily slowly closed her eyes. At that moment, she realized something terrifying. If the killer knew she had seen everything, she would be next. And so would everyone she loved. Then she made a decision. A decision that would change her life forever. When the doctor entered the room and shined a light into her eyes, Emily whispered, I can't see anything." The room fell silent. And just outside the door, someone quietly exhaled in relief. 10 years later, the entire town of Ashfield believed Emily Carter was blind. The brave young woman who had lost her sight in a tragic accident. They had no idea it was all a lie. Every morning, Emily woke up and pretended to search for her cane. Every afternoon, she counted her steps through the house she knew by heart. Every night, she closed her eyes and cried. Because for 10 years, she had lived with a secret. She knew who murdered her grandmother. And every day, she feared that person would discover she could still see. The lie had cost her everything. Her younger brother, Noah, had given up a scholarship in another city so he could stay home and care for her. At 26, he still lived in the family house. Still drove her everywhere. Still guided her by the hand. "One day, things will get better," he always said. Emily would smile, and then cry when she was alone. Daniel had also stayed. He never left her side. He postponed their wedding, then postponed it again. And again. 10 years had passed, and he was still waiting. "I don't care if we marry tomorrow or 10 years from now," he once told her. "I love you." Those words broke her heart every single time. Because she was lying to him too. The guilt was eating her alive. But fear kept her silent. Then, one rainy afternoon, everything changed. Noah was cleaning the attic. "Emily," he shouted. "I found one of Grandma's old boxes." Emily froze. Her grandmother's old box. A strange feeling washed over her. "Bring it here," she said. Noah placed the dusty wooden box on the table. "It's locked," he said. Emily's heart suddenly began pounding. Locked. A memory flashed through her mind. A small key. Her grandmother's frightened face. "Keep this safe." She hadn't thought about that key in 10 years. "Leave it here," she said quietly. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, Emily sat alone with the box. She ran her fingers across it. Then she noticed something. A small compartment underneath. Inside, a tiny key. The very same one her grandmother had given her on the night she died. Emily's hands trembled. She unlocked the box. Inside were old photographs, newspaper clippings, and one sealed letter. On the front were the words, "To my darling Emily, open this only when you are ready to know the truth." Tears filled her eyes. She opened the letter. The first sentence made her stop breathing. "The truth behind my untimely death." Emily's hands began shaking. She continued reading. "The truth will change everything. Make sure to stay strong." Tears rolled down her cheeks. Then came the next sentence. A sentence so horrifying that she nearly dropped the letter. "Do not protect this person, cause they do not deserve it." Emily's entire body froze. There was more. Much more. She read the final lines. And suddenly, the world she had believed in for 10 years shattered. Because the letter ended with these words. "The person who tried to kill me that night didn't act alone, and the reason they wanted me dead will destroy this family forever." Emily's hands trembled so violently that she almost dropped the letter. The rain outside had become heavier. Thunder echoed through the empty house. For 10 years, she had lived in fear, believing she was protecting someone. But now, her grandmother's words kept repeating in her mind. "The person you are protecting never deserved your sacrifice." What did that mean? Who else was involved? And why had her grandmother written that someone else helped plan her murder? Her breathing became uneven. Then she noticed something. The box wasn't empty. There was a false bottom. Her fingers shook as she lifted it. Underneath was another envelope. This one looked older. On the front were 4 words written in her grandmother's handwriting. "Read this alone." Emily slowly opened it. Inside was a second letter and a photograph. The photograph immediately made her blood run cold. It was taken years ago. She couldn't have been more than 10. Her grandmother was standing beside her. Her parents were there. Noah was there too. And in the background, almost hidden, was another person. The same person she had seen in her grandmother's bedroom 10 years ago. The same person she had spent 10 years protecting. A tear rolled down her cheek. She turned the photograph over. On the back, her grandmother had written, "The face of the person you trusted most." Emily could barely breathe. With trembling hands, she unfolded the second letter. "My darling Emily, if you are reading this, then I have already been killed, and you have finally found the courage to search for the truth." Tears streamed down her face. She kept reading. "I know why you pretended to be blind. I saw the fear in your eyes that night. You believed silence would protect someone you loved." Emily covered her mouth. Her grandmother knew. She knew everything. Then came the next line. "But love can make us blind in ways our eyes never could." Emily's chest tightened. "The person you are protecting betrayed you long before the night I died." "No," she whispered. Her eyes moved to the next sentence, and her entire body froze. "The person you saw in my bedroom that night came to steal something from me." Steal? What could possibly be worth killing for? Emily continued reading. "Inside the blue file hidden in my study is the truth about our family and the reason someone wanted me dead." The blue file. She had never seen it before. Then she read the final paragraph. "Do not trust anyone until you read that file, not even the person you have spent 10 years protecting." The room suddenly felt cold. Very cold. A creaking sound came from upstairs. Emily's head snapped toward the staircase. Someone was awake. Someone was moving around. She quickly folded the letter and hid it under her sweater. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, footsteps began descending the stairs. Slowly, one step at a time. Emily's heart pounded. At this hour, who could it be? A shadow appeared at the end of the hallway. It was Daniel. He looked worried. Emily. She quickly wiped her tears. "What are you doing awake?" he asked. I couldn't sleep. Then Daniel noticed the open box. "The old box from your grandmother." Emily nodded. Daniel smiled sadly. "She loved you so much." For a brief moment, Emily looked into his eyes. He had stayed beside her for 10 years. Never complained. Never left. And suddenly, she wondered, what else had she missed while pretending to be blind? How many lives had she ruined? Daniel gently touched her hand. "Emily, are you okay?" Before she could answer, a loud crash came from upstairs. Both of them jumped. The sound had come from her late grandmother's old room. Daniel frowned. "Did you hear that?" Emily nodded instinctively, then immediately realized her mistake. Nodded. She had reacted before pretending to be blind. Daniel looked at her strangely. For a split second, neither of them moved. Then another crash echoed upstairs. Daniel turned toward the staircase. "I'll go check." He quickly ran upstairs. Emily stood frozen. Had he noticed? Did he suspect something? A few moments later, Daniel shouted from upstairs. "Emily, come here." Panic shot through her body. She grabbed her cane and slowly made her way up the stairs. When she entered the room, she stopped breathing. The entire room had been ransacked. Drawers were open. Books were on the floor. Pictures had been torn from the walls. Someone had searched this room. Recently. Very recently. Then Daniel picked something up from the floor. A small blue folder. The blue file. The very file her grandmother had mentioned. He looked at it confused. Then looked at Emily. "Do you know what this is?" Emily's heart nearly stopped. Because written across the front of the file were 3 terrifying words. The truth about EMILY. Emily stared at the blue file in Daniel's hands. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it. The truth about EMILY. Those 4 words felt terrifying. Daniel looked confused. "What does this mean?" Emily swallowed hard. I don't know." Another lie. But this time, even she wasn't sure she wanted to know the truth. Daniel gently handed her the file. "You should keep it." She nodded and held it tightly against her chest. Just then, another voice came from the doorway. "What's going on?" It was Noah. He looked from the scattered room to the blue file in Emily's hands. "I heard a noise." Daniel sighed. "I think someone was in here." Noah frowned. At this hour, the 3 of them searched the room again, but there was no sign of anyone. No broken window. No forced door. Nothing. As if whoever had been there had simply vanished. Eventually, Daniel and Noah returned downstairs. But Emily couldn't sleep. An hour later, she quietly locked her bedroom door. Then she placed the blue file on the bed. Her hands trembled. For 10 years, she had been afraid of the truth. Tonight, the truth was finally in front of her. She slowly opened the file. Inside were old documents, medical records, photographs, and an envelope marked, "Read this first." Emily unfolded the letter. It was written in her grandmother's handwriting. "My darling Emily, if you are reading this, then someone has already tried to stop you from finding these papers. You are in danger." A chill ran through her body. She continued reading. "Everything I am about to tell you is the truth your parents promised never to reveal until the right time. Emily frowned. What truth? Then she read the next sentence, and her entire world stopped. The people who raised you are not your biological parents. The paper slipped from her hands. No. That couldn't be true. Guys, this story just took a completely different turn. Emily has just discovered that the people she called mom and dad her entire life aren't her biological parents. But trust me, what she's about to uncover next is even more shocking. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because the truth behind her real family is about to change everything. Her breathing became uneven. Tears filled her eyes. She picked up the letter again. You were adopted when you were 3 years old. Emily covered her mouth. Her entire life, everything she believed, everything she knew, had been a lie. She continued reading through her tears. Your mother and father loved you as their own child. They wanted to tell you one day, but they were afraid of losing you. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Then she reached the next paragraph. And suddenly, she couldn't breathe. Your biological parents were both murdered. Emily's eyes widened. Murdered? She read the line again. Her hands began shaking violently. The police never found the killer. Inside the file was a newspaper clipping. She picked it up. There was a photograph of a young couple. A man and a woman smiling. Underneath the picture were the words, local couple found dead in suspected robbery. Daughter missing for several hours before being found safe. Emily's legs gave way. She sat on the floor. The little girl in the photograph was her. She had no memory of any of it. She turned to the next page. Another letter. This one was shorter. The robbery was staged. Your parents were murdered because of something they discovered. Emily's entire body went cold. Discovered what? Then she found another document. A bank statement. And another. And another. Each one had the same company name on it. Haley Foundation Holdings. She frowned. She had never heard of it before. Then she saw a handwritten note from her grandmother. Your biological father worked for this company before he died. He found evidence of financial crimes involving powerful people. Emily's heartbeat quickened. She kept reading. I believe the same people responsible for your parents' deaths are connected to my murder. A loud gasp escaped her lips. This wasn't just about her grandmother. This went back much further. Years. Maybe decades. Then she reached the final page, and her blood ran cold. At the bottom of the page was a sentence written in shaky handwriting. The person you are protecting knows this truth. Emily froze. No. That couldn't be possible. She turned the page over. There was one final line. A line that shattered her. The person you saw in my bedroom that night betrayed you long before you pretended to be blind. Tears streamed down her face. For 10 years, she had sacrificed everything. Her future, her happiness, Daniel's future, Noah's future, all to protect someone she loved. But according to her grandmother, that person had betrayed her. A sudden knock on the door made her jump. Emily, it was Noah. Are you okay? She quickly hid the papers. Why, yes. But before Noah could say another word, the lights in the entire house suddenly went out. Darkness. Complete darkness. Then, a loud crash came from downstairs. Someone had entered the house. And a few seconds later, Emily heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming straight toward her bedroom door. The footsteps stopped right outside Emily's bedroom. Silence. A terrifying, suffocating silence. Emily's hands trembled as she clutched the blue file against her chest. Another knock. Slow. Deliberate. Then, the doorknob began to turn. Emily froze. She had locked the door. Someone was trying to get in. "Emily," Noah's voice called from the other side. "Open the door." She let out a shaky breath. It was Noah. Quickly, she hid the blue file under her pillow and unlocked the door. Noah stepped inside holding a flashlight. "The entire neighborhood lost power," he said. Then he looked at her face. "You've been crying." "I'm fine." "No, you're not." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then another sound echoed through the house. A door slamming downstairs. Noah frowned. "Daniel is checking the back door. Stay here." Before Emily could answer, he hurried out. A few seconds later, she heard voices downstairs. Then, a scream. "Noah." It was Daniel. Emily's heart nearly stopped. She ran, completely forgetting to pretend. She sprinted down the hallway and down the stairs. At the bottom, she froze. Daniel and Noah were both staring at her. Not because of the open back door. Not because of the muddy footprints on the floor. But because they had just seen her run. Without her cane. Without hesitation. Straight through the darkness. The room went silent. Noah's flashlight slowly lowered. Daniel looked pale. Emily's chest rose and fell rapidly. Nobody spoke. Then Noah whispered, "You can see." Tears immediately filled her eyes. 10 years. 10 long years. And the truth had just come out. "Emily," Daniel said softly. She couldn't speak. Noah's voice trembled. "You can see." A tear rolled down her cheek. "Yes." The flashlight slipped from Noah's hand. It hit the floor with a loud thud. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Noah took a step back. Another. And another. As if he didn't recognize her anymore. "I gave up my scholarship," he whispered. His eyes filled with tears. "I stayed here because I thought you needed me." Emily's heart shattered. "Noah, I spent 10 years taking care of you. I know. You let me believe you were blind. I had no choice." "No choice," he cried. "You lied to me for 10 years." Daniel looked equally devastated. "You lied to me too." Emily turned toward him. The man who had waited for her. Who had never left her side. Who had sacrificed 10 years of his life. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry." Daniel's eyes glistened. Was any of it real? She immediately nodded. Every single moment. "Then why?" he asked. "Why would you do this?" Emily looked at both of them. The people she loved most in the world. And for the first time in 10 years, she finally said the words she had kept buried. "Because I saw who killed Grandma." Silence. The room seemed to stop breathing. "What?" Noah whispered. "The night Grandma died, I saw someone in her bedroom." Daniel's face paled. "And I pretended to be blind because I thought if that person believed I remembered nothing, everyone would be safe." Noah looked horrified. "You know who killed Grandma?" Emily slowly nodded. "Yes." Daniel swallowed hard. "Who was it?" Emily's hands began trembling. She looked at the blue file. Then back at them. Tears filled her eyes. "I can't tell you." Noah stared at her in disbelief. "After everything, you're still protecting them." Emily closed her eyes. The words in her grandmother's letter echoed in her mind. "Do not protect this person, because they do not deserve it." A painful sob escaped her lips. Then she whispered, "I loved that person." Silence. Noah's eyes widened. Daniel looked confused. Then suddenly, the front door creaked open. All three of them turned. Someone had entered the house. Slow footsteps echoed through the living room. Then a familiar voice spoke. You finally told them the truth. Emily's blood turned cold. Standing in the doorway was the person she had spent 10 years protecting. The person who had murdered her grandmother. And on their face was a smile that made Emily realize something terrifying. They had known all along. They had known she could see. For 10 years. And they had been waiting for this exact moment. The entire room went silent. The person standing in the doorway slowly stepped into the house. The moonlight from outside illuminated their face. Emily felt her knees weaken. It was Victoria, her older sister. Noah's eyes widened. Victoria, what are you doing here? Victoria didn't answer. She simply looked at Emily. Then she smiled. A cold, terrifying smile. Daniel frowned. You scared us half to death. Still no answer. Emily could barely breathe. For 10 years. This was the face she had seen in her grandmother's bedroom. This was the person she had protected. The person she had lied for. The person she had sacrificed everything for. Victoria looked directly at her. You finally told them, didn't you? A chill ran down Emily's spine. Noah looked confused. Told us what? Victoria's eyes never left Emily. That she can see. Silence. Then she laughed softly. I wondered how much longer you could keep pretending. Emily's face went pale. You knew. Victoria nodded. Of course I knew. The room seemed to spin. For 10 years. She knew. For 10 years. She had watched Emily destroy her own life. Tears filled Emily's eyes. You knew all this time. Victoria took another step forward. I knew from the very beginning. No, Emily whispered. I saw you looking at me in the hospital. The words hit like a truck. You opened your eyes for a second. That's how I knew. Emily's breathing became uneven. And yet, Victoria continued, you still protected me. Noah looked from one sister to the other. Someone tell me what's going on. Emily's voice shook. It was her. Silence. Noah frowned. What? The person I saw in Grandma's bedroom that night was Victoria. The room froze. Daniel looked horrified. No. Noah laughed nervously. Stop it, this isn't funny. Emily was crying now. I saw her. No, Noah shouted. You're lying. Victoria finally spoke. She's not lying. The words echoed through the house. Noah's face lost all color. Daniel looked like he couldn't breathe. Victoria's expression remained calm. I was there. Emily stared at her. After 10 years. She had finally admitted it. Why? Emily whispered. Victoria looked away. For the first time, sadness crossed her face. I never meant for Grandma to die. The room fell silent. Then why were you there? Daniel asked. Victoria swallowed hard. I went to steal the blue file. Emily's heart stopped. The same file you found tonight. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Why? Victoria looked directly at her. Because I knew the truth about you. Silence. You knew I was adopted. Victoria nodded. I found out years before Grandma died. Emily couldn't understand. But why would that make you kill her? Victoria suddenly began crying. I didn't kill her. Everyone froze. I went there to get the file because someone told me to. Someone. Emily's heartbeat quickened. Who? She whispered. Victoria looked terrified. For the first time all night. She looked genuinely afraid. He said if I gave him the file, he'd pay all Dad's debts. Noah frowned. What debts? Victoria looked at him. You do know. Know what? Tears streamed down her face. Dad has been drowning in debt for years. He borrowed money from dangerous people. Emily felt sick. No, this couldn't be happening. He was going to lose the house, everything. She looked back at Emily. I wanted to help. So you stole from Grandma? Emily asked. Victoria nodded. But Grandma caught me. A painful silence filled the room. Then a man came into the bedroom. Emily's blood turned cold. A man. Not Victoria. There was someone else there, Daniel asked. Victoria nodded slowly. He took the file from me. Her voice trembled. And when Grandma tried to stop him, she broke down crying. He pushed her. Emily's entire body froze. No. The fall killed her. A sob escaped her lips. For 10 years, she had believed Victoria was the murderer. For 10 years, she had sacrificed everything to protect her. But Victoria hadn't killed Grandma. The real killer had been someone else. And he had been standing in that room. The same room where Emily saw only one face before she fell down the stairs. Who was the man? Noah whispered. Victoria slowly lifted her head. Her face had gone completely pale. I never saw his face. Silence. He wore black gloves and a cap. Emily's heart sank. No. That couldn't be. Then Victoria said something that made everyone stop breathing. But I heard Grandma say his name. Emily's entire body stiffened. What name? She whispered. Victoria looked directly at her. Then she spoke 2 words. Words that shattered the entire family. Your father. The room went completely silent. Noah stumbled backward. Daniel looked horrified. Emily couldn't breathe. Because suddenly, everything in the blue file made sense. The debts. Her biological parents' murders. The stolen file. Grandma's warning. And the terrible sentence she could never forget. The person who tried to kill me that night didn't act alone, and the reason they wanted me dead will destroy this family forever. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The only sound in the room was the rain outside. Emily stared at Victoria, then at Noah, then at Daniel. Finally, she whispered, No. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I heard Grandma say his name. I swear I did. No, Emily repeated, shaking her head. Dad would never do that. But even as she said the words, her mind began replaying everything. The debts. The hidden file. Grandma's warnings. The mysterious man. And one horrible question. Why had her grandmother told her not to trust anyone? Noah suddenly stood up. That's enough. Everyone looked at him. You've already admitted you were there that night, Victoria. Now you're blaming Dad. I'm not lying. You expect us to believe that our father murdered Grandma. Victoria began crying. I wish I was lying. Just then, the front door opened. Everyone froze. Footsteps echoed through the hallway. Then a familiar voice spoke. Why is everyone awake? It was their father, Richard Carter. He stood in the doorway, confused by the expressions on their faces. Then he noticed Victoria. Victoria, what are you doing here? Nobody answered. His smile slowly faded. What happened? Emily looked at him. For 10 years, this man had been her hero. The man who taught her to ride a bicycle. The man who sat beside her hospital bed. The man who cried when she lost her sight. The man she called Dad. A tear rolled down her cheek. Dad, she whispered. He immediately walked toward her. What is it? She held up the blue file. The color drained from his face. A tiny change. A tiny expression. But Emily saw it. And for the first time, she became afraid of him. You know what this is? She asked. Silence. Emily. You know what this is, don't you? His eyes filled with something she had never seen before. Fear. Noah looked confused. Dad. Richard slowly sat down. He suddenly looked 10 years older. Then he whispered, You found it. Silence. Nobody breathed. Emily's heart broke. You knew about this file. He closed his eyes. Yes. Why? She cried. Because I promised your grandmother I would never let you see it. The room froze. What? Tears rolled down his face. Then he looked directly at Emily. I never wanted you to know. Know what? He couldn't answer. Instead, he began crying. It was the first time any of them had ever seen their father cry. Then he said something that shattered Emily's heart. I failed your parents. Silence. Emily stopped breathing. My parents. Richard nodded slowly. The room spun around her. I knew your mother and father. Noah looked horrified. Daniel was speechless. You knew them, Emily whispered. Richard looked at her with tears in his eyes. I loved them like family. He took a deep breath. Then he said, The night they died, I was supposed to be with them. Emily's hands trembled. What happened? Richard covered his face. We all worked for Haley Foundation Holdings. The company again. Every road led back to it. Your biological father discovered something terrible. What? He found proof that millions of dollars were being stolen from charitable funds. Silence. Money meant for orphanages, hospitals, and poor families. Emily's eyes widened. He wanted to expose the people responsible. Richard nodded. But before he could, he and your mother were murdered. A sob escaped Emily's lips. Her real parents, killed for trying to do the right thing. Then she remembered something. The newspaper article. She looked at Richard. You said you failed them. He nodded. Because I was the one who told them to trust the wrong person. The room fell silent. What person? Daniel asked. Richard looked absolutely broken. Then he whispered, the founder of Haley Foundation Holdings. Silence. He was my best friend. Emily's heartbeat quickened. What was his name? Richard looked directly at her. Then he said, Charles Haley. Nobody moved. The name meant nothing to Emily. But then, Richard reached into his wallet. He pulled out an old photograph. In it were 3 men. Her biological father, Richard, and another man. The third man had his arm around both of them. He was smiling. Richard handed the photograph to Emily. The moment she looked at it, she gasped. The photograph slipped from her hands, because she knew that face. She had seen it before. Recently. Very recently. Not in the file. Not in the newspaper. But somewhere else. Then she remembered. A framed picture. Inside this very house. Her eyes widened in horror. Slowly, she looked up at her father. Dad. Her voice trembled. Why is there a picture of Charles Haley in your office? The room went completely silent. Richard's face turned pale. Then he whispered words that sent chills through everyone. Because he's not just my old friend. A long, painful silence followed. Then he said, he's your godfather. Emily's heart stopped. But that's impossible, she whispered. Richard closed his eyes. No. Then he looked directly at her. It's worse than that. He took a shaky breath and finally revealed the truth. The man responsible for your parents' deaths, the man Grandma was trying to expose, the man behind all of this. A tear rolled down his face. Is coming to this house tomorrow. Silence. Then he whispered the words that changed everything. Because he's been pretending to help us for the last 10 years. Nobody slept that night. The truth had become too heavy. Emily sat in silence, the blue file resting on her lap. Her biological parents had been murdered. Her grandmother had been killed, trying to protect the truth. And now, the man responsible was coming to their house. The same man who had stayed close to them for 10 years. The same man who had pretended to care. A cold shiver ran through her body. She looked at her father. "Dad, who is he to us?" Richard's eyes filled with tears. Then he answered, "He's the reason we never lost this house." Silence. "He paid for your medical bills after the accident." Emily's heart sank. "He paid for Noah's university fees." Noah's face turned pale. "He helped us whenever we needed money." Daniel looked horrified. "No." Richard nodded. "And every year on your grandmother's death anniversary, he came to visit us." The room went completely silent. A terrible realization began to dawn on everyone. This man wasn't a stranger. He had been inside this house. Many times. He had sat at their dinner table. He had comforted them. He had hugged them. Emily suddenly felt sick. Then she whispered, "Who is he?" Richard slowly looked up. His voice broke. "Uncle Michael." Silence. Noah's mouth fell open. Victoria began shaking her head. Daniel looked as if he had seen a ghost. No. No. It couldn't be. Uncle Michael. The kind, cheerful man who always brought gifts. The man who never forgot anyone's birthday. The man who called Emily his little princess. Emily's breathing became uneven. Images flooded her mind. Uncle Michael teaching Noah how to fish. Uncle Michael buying Daniel his first suit. Uncle Michael holding her hand after her grandmother's funeral. A sob escaped her lips. No. This couldn't be true. "He loved us," she whispered. Richard closed his eyes. "He made us believe he did." Tears rolled down Emily's face. Then another memory suddenly hit her. The hospital. 10 years ago. A familiar voice outside her room. Please, don't let her remember anything. Her entire body froze. That voice. She knew that voice. She had heard it every Christmas. Every birthday. Every family gathering. It had been Uncle Michael. Emily covered her mouth. Oh my God. Daniel looked at her. You remember something. Tears streamed down her cheeks. He was there. Silence. He was at the hospital. The room turned cold. Richard slowly lowered his head. I know. Emily looked at him. You knew. He nodded. I suspected him for years. What? But I never had proof. A painful silence followed. Then a loud knock echoed through the house. Everyone jumped. One knock. Then another. And another. 3 slow knocks. The room became deathly quiet. Richard looked at the clock. 8:00 a.m. Exactly. The color drained from his face. He's here. Nobody moved. Another knock. Emily's hands began shaking. For 10 years, the man who destroyed her life had been pretending to be family. And now he was standing outside their door. Noah swallowed hard. What do we do? No one answered. Another knock. Then a familiar voice called from outside. Richard, are you home? Emily felt her blood run cold. It was him. The voice from the hospital. The voice from her nightmares. Uncle Michael. Richard slowly stood. Then he looked at Emily. You don't have to do this. Emily wiped her tears. For 10 years, she had hidden. For 10 years, she had lied. For 10 years, she had lived in darkness. No more. She slowly stood up. "I'm opening the door." Noah grabbed her arm. "Emily." She looked at him. "I can't run anymore." Silence. Then she walked toward the door. Each step felt heavier than the last. She reached for the handle. Her hand trembled. Then, she opened it. Uncle Michael stood there smiling, holding a box of pastries. Just like he had every year. "Good morning, everyone," he said cheerfully. Then his eyes landed on Emily. And his smile slowly disappeared. Because for the first time in 10 years, Emily was looking directly at him. No cane. No searching eyes. No act. Just a long, unbroken stare. The box slipped from his hands. Pastries scattered across the floor. Nobody spoke. Then, in a trembling voice, Uncle Michael whispered, "You can see." A tear rolled down Emily's cheek. She nodded. The color drained from his face. And in that moment, for the first time in 10 years, the monster looked afraid. The entire house fell silent. Uncle Michael stood frozen in the doorway. The pastries lay scattered across the floor. His hands trembled. "You can see," he whispered again. Emily didn't answer. She simply looked at him. For 10 years, she had dreamed of this moment. The man who stole her parents. The man who took her grandmother. The man who stole 10 years of her life. He was finally standing in front of her. And for the first time, he looked terrified. Richard stepped forward. "It's over, Michael." Michael slowly looked at him. "No. She knows." Silence. "She knows everything." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then something unexpected happened. Michael started crying. Not pretending. Not acting. Actually crying. Emily frowned. After everything, why was he crying? Then he looked at her. And his next words shocked everyone. "I never wanted to hurt you." Silence. A bitter laugh escaped Emily's lips. "You murdered my parents." Tears streamed down his face. "You killed Grandma." He couldn't even look at her. "You destroyed my life." Then Michael whispered, "I was trying to save yours." The room froze. Nobody breathed. "What?" Emily whispered. Michael slowly reached into his coat. Everyone tensed. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out an old photograph. A photograph of a little girl. Emily, no older than 3, standing between her biological parents. And beside them was Michael, smiling. Emily's heart stopped. Why was he in the picture? Then Michael said something that made the entire room go still. "I wasn't your godfather." Silence. He looked directly into her eyes. "I'm your uncle." A gasp escaped Noah. Daniel looked stunned. Victoria covered her mouth. Emily couldn't breathe. "My mother's brother," she whispered. Michael slowly nodded. Tears rolled down his face. Then he said, "And the truth is even worse." He took a shaky breath. Then, finally, revealed the secret he had buried for 23 years. "Your biological father wasn't the one who discovered the financial crimes at Haley Foundation." Silence. "It was your mother." The room went completely still. She found evidence that children from orphanages were being used to hide millions of dollars in illegal transactions. Emily's legs nearly gave out. "What?" "Your mother wanted to expose everything." Tears streamed down his face. "But the people involved were dangerous." He looked at Emily. "One of them was my own father." Silence. No one moved. No one breathed. "My father founded Haley Foundation Holdings." Emily stared at him. "My grandfather." Michael nodded. "He ordered your parents' deaths." A painful sob escaped Emily's lips. "No. No, this couldn't be happening. My father believed your mother had hidden the evidence before she died. He swallowed hard, and he spent years searching for it. Emily's hands began shaking. The evidence was in the blue file. Michael nodded. Your grandmother took it and hid it. Tears rolled down his cheeks. She promised your mother she would protect you. Silence. And when my father learned she still had the file, he ordered me to get it. Emily's heart pounded. You killed Grandma. Michael immediately shook his head. No. His voice broke. I swear I didn't. Everyone stared at him. I went there to steal the file, but your grandmother refused to give it to me. He looked down. Then he whispered. My father came to the house himself. The room went cold. He pushed her. Emily's breath caught. He killed her. Silence. But when he saw you on the stairs, Michael began crying again. He realized you had seen him. The room was deathly quiet. And that's why I went to the hospital. A chill ran down Emily's spine. I begged the doctors not to let you remember. He looked directly at her. Because I knew my father would kill you too. Everything suddenly clicked. The hospital. The fear. The warning. The years of silence. Then Emily whispered. You knew I was pretending. Michael nodded. From the very beginning. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then why didn't you expose me? His voice trembled. Because every time I looked at you, I saw my sister. Silence. You have her eyes. The room was filled with tears. Then Michael said the words that finally explained everything. The reason I stayed close to this family for 10 years wasn't to protect myself. He broke down completely. It was to protect you. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. I spent 10 years making sure my father never got near you. Emily couldn't breathe. Everything she had believed, everything she hated, everything she feared, was wrong. Then Michael slowly reached into his pocket. He pulled out an old newspaper. At the top was a headline. HAILEY Foundation, founder ARRESTED, for multiple murders and financial fraud. Everyone looked at him in shock. He was arrested this morning. Silence. After I turned myself in and gave the police everything. Tears streamed down his face. I came here today to tell you the truth and to ask for your forgiveness. Emily's entire body shook. Forgiveness. After everything. She looked at him. The man she had hated for 10 years. The man she had protected for 10 years. The man who had betrayed her. And somehow, protected her too. Then she finally understood her grandmother's words. Do not protect this person because they do not deserve it. Her grandmother wasn't talking about hatred. She was talking about sacrifice. Michael did not deserve 10 years of Emily's suffering. No one did. A sob escaped her lips. For 10 years, she had lived in darkness for nothing. She looked at Noah, at Daniel, at her father, at Victoria. All of them had lost 10 years too. Then she did something no one expected. She walked toward Michael and hugged him. The entire room burst into tears. Because in that moment, the lies, the secrets, the guilt, and the darkness of 10 long years finally came to an end. 3 months later, Emily and Daniel finally set a wedding date. Noah accepted a new scholarship. Victoria started rebuilding her life. And Emily stood beside her grandmother's grave. She placed a white rose on the stone. Then she smiled through her tears. You were right, Grandma. The wind gently blew through the trees. I can finally see. And for the first time in 10 years, Emily wasn't talking about her eyes. She was talking about the truth. What would you have done if you were Emily? Would you have pretended to be blind to protect someone you loved? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more emotional and suspenseful stories.